fuck was that?
Welcome to What the Fuck Did I Dream Last Night? I'm Janie, and today we have Drew Ackerman here with us today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on.
Glad that you could be here. I'm excited. Do you want to tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I make a podcast called Sleep with Me. It's a podcast that it's like bedtime stories for grown-ups. It's a podcast that puts people to sleep.
Yes, I love it. I even it's great for me because I can't turn my mind off at night, so I like to listen to it because it takes you elsewhere. Um, I even got my husband into it, and he's the type that likes to have like complete silent when he goes to bed, like no TV, nothing. And I'm the opposite. I'm like, I need a TV on, I need a fan on, I'll take a light.
Yeah.
So I got my husband into it as well.
That's good because sometimes I have partners that don't agree on the podcast, and it causes strife. So I'm glad that you're both in agreement on the podcast.
There are some nights where he's like, "Can you just put your headphones in?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that for you, not a problem." But most of the time, he's okay with it.
That's great.
Um, so you have a sleep with me or sleep podcast, so it kind of ties into a little bit of what we do here. We talk about dreams and sleeping. Are you a dreamer? Are you like an active dreamer? Do you dream a lot?
So it kind of depends, and I've never charted it as far as like my well-being in dreaming. But I mean, I'm a person that loves to dream. And I don't know, during 2020, it's 2020, right? That's what
It,
you're
it's still 2020.
the year we'd rather forget. This year, I've been dreaming less. I feel like, and I don't know if that's just stress. But usually I do remember my dreams, and I always hope when I go to sleep that I have cool dreams.
Hmm. I can agree. Like, I feel like my dreams haven't been like as normal, I want to say, as like the past years.
Yeah,
I feel like normally I remember like dreaming every night, but I've had nights more that I'm not recalling all of my dreams, and a lot more like anxiety dreams are coming out, and I just feel like that's because of what's going on in this world with everything.
yeah, very reflective of the current circumstances.
Yes. Let's see. Have you ever like lucid dreamed before?
Yeah, so I usually I've never it's always on my to-do list is to like learn how to lucid dream. Usually I'll
Yeah.
have one lucid dream a year, and then I'm like, "Oh, could I please let that happen again?" And then it doesn't happen again for 12 to 16 months.
That you're doing better than me. I've never ever had a lucid dream, but I haven't really tried much either. I feel like I need to get more into that. Like my one friend is a lucid dreamer, and she like told me about like to do reality checks like all throughout the day.
Hmm.
She was like, put like a black dot on like below your thumb on your hand and just keep looking at that. So like when you're in your dream, if you look at your hand and that dot's not there, then you know you're dreaming and you can kind of take control over it.
That's like total inception level that's cool.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know how I would do with like lucid dreaming. I feel like my dreams are already vivid enough where I'm like, do I want to step into that? Will I have a hard time stepping into it, or should I just go for it?
It's interesting for me. It's so much similar to making the Sleep with Me, the podcast I make, because
Hmm.
so like I've always had, like I said, for as long as I can remember, I'll usually every once in a while, so about once a year, I'll have a lucid dream where it's just like people say, it's like I'm dreaming, and then I'm like, wait a second, is this a dream? And then I'll be like, oh wait, I am dreaming, and then of course I'll try to control the dream, and sometimes I'll be aware enough to be like, okay, don't try to over control it, don't try to force it, like just try to be in the dream and enjoy it, and then see what you can loosely control. But then a lot of times, if I try to control it too much, I'll either end up frustrated or I'll wake up. And making the podcast of like telling bedtime stories to people, the creative side of it is very similar, where it's like I kind of have to hold things loosely and let them unfold, and steer them instead of controlling them.
Yeah, I can see how that's similar to that. I think that I might have like Because I feel like I've definitely had dreams where I'm sleeping and I definitely notice like, oh, this is a dream, but I've never been able to take like the next step of like taking control or like doing something in it. Like I feel like I always am like, oh, this is a dream. The next thing you know, I like woke up and I'm like, dang it, like I ruined
Yeah.
it. Like I was so close.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I can imagine it would be pretty addicting because when I do it, I'm like, man, that would be so awesome to just have to be aware in the dream world, like more aware, just to walk around and be a more active participant, even if you're not in control, to be like, oh, wow, that's a purple dinosaur. Well, let me hop on and give it a ride or whatever it is.
Right, right. Like I definitely think I've been more ever since we started this podcast, like I've been more into like reading about it and wanting to try it more. Um but I've had sleep paralysis before, so I'm afraid that's going to happen instead of
Hmm.
lucid dreaming. And I know they're two different things, but like in the back of my head I'm like, what if I do that again and not lucid dream? Like what if that happens?
Yeah, that's a risk. That's understandable.
Have you ever had sleep paralysis before?
No, I don't think I have. I mean, I've heard from a lot of listeners that have had it.
Mhm.
Like I've had weird things happen with my breathing, but other than that, I haven't felt like the level of sleep paralysis that most people have had.
Yeah, I've only had it like one or two times, but like it was enough to scare me. Like I'm luckily not one of those people that have it like weekly or like nightly even.
Yeah, that's like people that have chronic sleep paralysis. I really, really feel for.
Yeah, that has to be exhausting.
Yeah,
Like I feel like lucid dreaming too has to be like exhausting at one point too. Like I feel like you might just want to be like, "Hey, I just want to sleep tonight." Like
right, right, exactly.
can we not go on a big adventure?
Well, especially if you get those anxiety dreams. Like I get so many dreams that are like I don't even know if it's a pseudo dream. I don't even know what to call it. Where I'm like doing some rote task and I'm trying to like I'm like what like it's more exhausting than being awake. Where it's like I'm filing or organizing stuff and it's like incredibly frustrating and it's just this ongoing. It's like a music stuck on a loop and then I wake up and I'm like my teeth are grinding. And I'm like, man, if I had those dreams all the time, it would be more. I just might as well stay awake.
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree with that. Like I know when I have dreams, because I'm a waitress, and I'll have dreams that like I can't do my job. Like I can't get to my table. I can't get their drinks. Like I can't talk to them or they're just waiting forever and I'm just like standing there like just not able to do like simple daily tasks and I like wake up like so frustrated and angry and like almost in like a panic attack. I'm like why couldn't I do that? Like that just it's tiring sometimes.
Right, right.
So, have you kept a dream journal here for a little bit?
So I've been keeping so it's this timing is just unbelievable. So I've been keeping a dream journal, but then I had a while like a not a super I wish it was a more exciting dream, but I had like a very vivid dream last night too. So we could talk about that or we could talk about whatever.
Yeah, let's hear about your dream last night.
So last night I had this dream that for some reason I was going to I was like the dream kind of started in the middle like everything and it was like I was on my way to Japan for a like a podcasting conference
Hmm.
and like it must have been towards the end of the flight or something and I got off the flight and I was like really really tired and then I started getting like obsessed that I was so tired and then I got on a bus and the next thing I know it's like at the hotel for the wherever the conference was and I was like trying to check into my room and that kind of stuff was a little bit blurry. But the next thing I know, it was like there was only enough time for me to like drop my bags off at the hotel, and then I had to get on another bus with all these other podcasters to go to some podcast conference. So it wasn't at the same hotel, and I was
Hmm.
really grouchy, and I really wanted coffee. And then I was sitting on a bus, and I was sitting at the window, and it was raining, and so I really like I remember it was like raining, and I was just kind of staring out the window, exhausted and kind of watching we were like driving through a residential neighborhood and then a kind of city and I was totally oblivious to the fact that I was in another country and then some part of me is like hey like why aren't you paying more attention to like the stores and the way the buildings look and the street signs like you're in Japan like some smarter part of me is like why aren't you enjoying this and I'm like because I'm
Yeah.
freaking tired like I don't and then I was like and then I started feeling like ashamed that I wasn't like enjoying the bus ride more so it's kind of trying to look at like and then I was like, well, the details are kind of the same because it's a residential neighborhood. The houses have numbers on them. And then I was like, well, maybe when I'm more rested, I'll pay attention. And then we got to like the conference center, and it was early in Japan, so I like went to the like there was like a place that sold snacks and coffee and stuff, but it was still closed, and the conference wasn't even starting, so everybody was kind of sitting in this like, like a side area at a conference center sitting around. And I then my social anxiety started, so I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know anybody here, didn't see any familiar faces, so I was starting to like freak out. Like I'm like, oh boy, how am I gonna start, who am I gonna talk to? Maybe if I don't know why I was so obsessed with drinking coffee in the dream, but I was like, oh, I just got to get some coffee and then I'll be better. And then um I was just like super stressed, and then I was like trying to see, maybe I should get a vending machine, but the conference was supposed to start with breakfast, so I was like, just wait, just stay calm, like just stay calm. And then these two guys started like making fun of my hair, and because I haven't got a haircut during the whole coronavirus, so my
Mhm.
hair is like insanely crazy, and they were like making fun of it like to each other, they were like, when people, they say something about you to each other so you can hear it, but they're not talking to you. So they said, like, man, I wonder if like a Beatles hairstyle is ever going to come back in fashion. And the other guy's like, nah, it'll never come back. Like, only a fool would look. And I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe this is happening. But then again, some other part of me was like, these guys are just like they're not worth like getting your feelings hurt. So then I went in
Mhm.
the bathroom and I like looked at my hair and it was crazy. And I'm like, well, I'm better off having crazy hair than lame hair. And then when I came out of the bathroom, everybody was gone. And I was like, oh my gosh, breakfast is starting. So I go down the stairs, and we would go down the stairs into like a conference breakfast buffet. And I'm like, oh god, I'm gonna finally get caught. And then again, my social anxiety hit. I'm like, where am I gonna sit? Because everybody was like sitting in the tables, and a lot of people were sitting together, knew each other. And I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, so I was like standing, like looking at all the tables, trying to figure out where I was going to sit, and like I was just panicking. And then this woman was at the buffet, and she said, "Do you not have anyone to sit with? You could sit with us," which almost made it worse. So, like I was like when it happens in reality, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, uh, 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 and then I was like trying to lie, but then I was like, "Oh well, I could sit with them." And then I think I didn't even answer, and then I ended up like I don't know what happened, like it was a little bit blurry, but like then her husband was like making he like I wasn't sitting with them, so I think I was still standing nervously, but he was like some sort of like expert on something not related to podcasting, like Japanese theme parks or something. And he was just like going on this long talk, like almost like he was giving a speech, but he was just talking to the table, and he was just talking on and on and on. And then that was like the last thing I remember. So now that I've talked that the dream out loud, I'm like, oh my god, there's so much obvious stuff in there. But yeah, that's what I dreamed about last night.
That like that is just full of all anxiety triggers for me. Like I'd feel like I could never go and do something like that on my own. I would need like a buddy with me because I would be freaking out. Like, where am I gonna sit? What am I gonna do? Or
Right,
if that lady asked me, like, well, you can sit with us. I'm like, great. Now she knows I'm alone, and I look like the alone loser standing here. Like,
right. Yeah, it's like, oh wait, there's like the wiser part of me and a couple parts of the dream. Also on the flight, I remembered I had like I had someone from another conference that I knew that I kind of was with on the flight, but then we got separated. And then another thing I forgot is that when I threw all my stuff at the hotel, like I threw, and this was because of what I was reading before bed because it had a passport in the book I'm reading, but I threw all my bags and just like left the hotel to go to the conference, and I didn't have my passport. And then I started getting like some sort of passport anxiety also in the dream. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get in trouble because I'm like in another country without my, and then I'm like, what if my passport gets stolen from my hotel room? So there's even that anxiety in there.
oh man, yes, that's how I feel like that's how my everyday brain works, and that like, oh, um, it's funny though that you were flying to Japan because I don't even know. There were a few episodes back. I had a dream about flying, and I was flying to Japan with like these people, and they were like my close friends, but I didn't know like really like who they were in real life. And I have no clue what we were really going over there for, but that was our destination was Japan.
Pants pulling in the dreams right now.
Right? Like, what are they doing? What are they putting out in the air here?
Right.
um, do you like do a lot of your dreams like have you ever been in a situation like that in real life that like that's why like maybe you dreamt that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's weird that it came up now, like this deep into coronavirus, but it's
Hmm.
definitely like all those things have happened in different ways. So, like, I guess I haven't gone to a conference with like super bad jet lag, but that's probably symbolic of like me being a grouch or like the whole stuff about not paying attention and being in the, it's like, what are you doing in another country and you're not looking at like the cool stores and the cool,
Hmm.
like, so that kind of regret or like, I mean, it was those are the cool things about the dream lakes. It was so detailed, like the rain and the bus. I can see everything. But then the conference anxiety or the people throwing shade anxiety, those ones are oh my god, so common. Like that's one of the. I mean, that's like a very archetypal thing. But for me, it's like I went to a conference and actually it ended up being the best thing a few years ago, and they had, I think they just had breakfast and lunch, and
Hmm.
it was open seating in buffets. So it was like, and I went there to the conference by myself. So it was like, it like was a forced interaction because it was like a huge conference. So it was like, okay, just grab your food and it's like, hey, like it felt like I grew so much because it was like, do you mind if I sit here? Uh,
Yeah.
and it was very intimidating. But and actually, it was the craziest thing was the first table I sat down. Half the people at the table were like from the Bay Area where I live, but it was just so it's just so random that yeah, in the dream it was like that. But then someone's like calling me out on it, but also trying to be kind and welcoming. But then I found that made it even worse.
Yeah. Well, that like that's really being in those situations like in real life is like it does force you out of your comfort zone, and it's so hard at first, but then like after you look back you're like, I'm so glad I did that. Like that
Right,
was
right.
great. Like I needed something like that. When you mention about the coffee in your dream, like you had to have a coffee or something, I feel like was almost like a comfort thing. Like if I just have a coffee in my hand, it's like I'm doing something and I'm not just standing here like without a purpose. Like that gave you something to like hold on to or
Right, or it's like also like the kind of weird stuff I fixate on, like everything's gonna be like it's like, oh no, I'll enjoy the moment later once I have something like something that's off in the future. It's like, oh, once I have the
Mhm.
coffee, everything's gonna be okay. But until then, I don't have to like engage or like I can just hold if I can just hold off till then, it'll be fine. Like that's like my personal life. Oh, if I just get this sorted out, then everything's gonna be perfect. And it's like, oh wait, that doesn't end up being, why don't you just enjoy the moment?
Yeah, I can relate to that a lot. I'm like, if I just have all of this figured out and done, then everything will be fine. But that's not how life works. Things just keep coming up. Like you do have to stop and enjoy the moment. That's something I feel like I've definitely been trying to work on. And especially like during quarantine, I feel like this time gave everybody some time to like stop and reflect on their life and everything.
For sure, for sure.
Definitely a good one of the positive things. We'll say that about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What did you have another dream you want to share with us?
Well, I have another. Let's see. So I have this one repetitive dream,
Uh
uh,
huh.
and then so I had, and during coronavirus, I've had it like usually again very similar to the thing. I have it like once or twice a year, uh,
Mhm.
and I had it recently, which was it had a little bit different flavor. But the dream usually goes like, it like starts off, and I'm like returning to go to like at my current age or my current consciousness, I'm like returning to go to like college or something, but I've like I'm going back either at my current age or like somehow it's like a return to youth type theme, but
Yeah.
like, I've like burned all my every relationship I had, and not like in it like because I just went in through some isolation period, and in the dream it's so weird. Like it didn't actually really do this in such a concrete way, but in the dream, at some point I just 100% self isolated. So all my friends, I stopped contacting them and never spoke to them for in the dream. It's always this year long period, like, and so all of them I just cut off. And sometimes it was like addiction based, like I was like isolating, And because in my personal life I struggle with that, like, and I'm isolating because of addiction, and other times it's like just like some weird period of like, oh, I'm not going to talk to anybody for a year. And even in the dream, even me as a dreamer, I'm baffled at what happened. It's like, huh, why did I do that? Like, why did I just stop speaking to everyone? But in the
Mhm.
and if that happened in real life, I would just never return to the world. Like, I don't have the courage. I'd be like, oh, if that person's mad at me, I'm not contacting them. Like, I'm too afraid. But in the dream, it's like I'm returning, and it's like, whoa, oh, I get one more year at school, and I can fix this. And so it's like, in the dream, I'm actually excited to face the fears. Like, it's like, oh, and it's still, I'm still nervous in the dream, but it's like, oh, like, can you go find some of your friends and then maybe you could apologize to them or find out how mad they are that you didn't talk to them for a year. And then even in the dream, I'm like having this internal dialogue, like, they're gonna be pretty mad, like, you didn't answer any of their calls, you didn't return any of their calls, this is really gonna suck. And then I'm like going out and looking for them, but in the dream, instead of like the fear and the like avoidance I would have in my regular life, I'm like actually like feeling really excited about it, even though I'm still feeling afraid. And then the last time I had it, which was like since the first time we talked, because I was keeping trying to keep track of dreams, like in
Mhm.
this dream, like that all happens, and then I set out to kind of start walking around the campus of whatever it is in the dream. And then in this dream, I'm with my daughter who's like 13. So in the dream, I think she was like a year or two older because it was like, oh, we're like walking around this college. Maybe one day you would go to it or something. But the college is in like Los Angeles in the dream. And so we're like, it's like a weird kind of campus in like a very urban area. And we're like walking on the outskirts, and then all of a sudden I'm with like some other friends of mine, and we're like walking, and it's just one of those very detailed kind of boring dreams where we're walking through this area and we're just talking. And but then I'm like also with my daughter, I'm like, oh, would this be the kind of place you'd want to go? And she's like, well, it's kind of like weird that it's like it's like right in the middle of the city. I was kind of like looking for something more like you see in the movies. And then we like come to this giant park, and it's like humongous, and it must have been like in the dream it didn't feel hot, but like everybody in the park is like college students. They're all like chilling in the sun. And then the park has like the most elaborate set of zip lines, like that would have been like something you would see in like the redwood trees, or you go to like one of those adventure parks, but it's just like right in the middle of this park, like these like 100-foot zip lines, like no rules or anything. Like there's just college students like zip lining at like 1,000 miles an hour down these giant hills. And me and my daughter are like, I can't believe they just have these like extreme zip lines. Just anybody, we're like, this is the coolest thing ever. And then I think the dream just kind of petered out after that. But it's like kind of like more specific dream layered on top of this dream I keep having over and over again.
So at the beginning, like how you said how like you're going like back, it's almost like in like your dreamland, you're like trying to give yourself a second chance to like redo things.
Yeah, yeah. Like I've it was weird because I like talked to my therapist about it recently too, because I was like,
Mhm.
like I keep having this dream, and it was like, oh well, it's pretty on the nose too, and I keep having it over and over again. But we were kind of talking a lot about it's like these second chances, but I'm not plagued by like the all or nothing thinking I have during the day either.
Mhm.
Like in the dream, instead of being paralyzed by fear or catastrophic thinking or whatever, like a lot of things I deal with, like in the dream, it's like, well, why don't you talk to them and see how and it didn't, it wasn't, it was very in the middle, like a gray area. Like it wasn't like they weren't going to be mad at me, or it wasn't going to have some difficulty, or I wasn't afraid, but there was like this balance there where I was able to be like, some part of me is like, well, do you want to go look for them? Do you want to go see? And even in one of the dreams, I like went to a bar that I knew they would all be at. And I remember like standing in the entrance of the bar. And then also there was like this in some of the dreams, because it's addiction based, like I'm like also have this anxiety of like, okay, well, I can't drink, but I know all my friends are going to be drinking, like, but it's not paralyzing either. It's like, oh well, let's just go see it. Like, or it's even like, well, you probably shouldn't drink, but well, let's just play it by ear. um And in this dream, I'm like looking at the bar and I'm looking around, I'm seeing people that I know I burned. And then it's like, they're at like tables together and it's like, okay, are you going to walk up to them and talk to them? Like, and then you could say, sorry, like just like in real life, when you know you're going to have to, whatever, eat crow or whatever they say, like,
Yeah.
uh, but in real life, I mean, I don't think I would ever. I'd be like, well, I'll send them a letter, then I'll call them 6 months later, and then I'll talk to them in person. Like, I would never just walk up to a table of people that were mad at me and be like, hey, uh, but
Can we
even,
hash things out here?
yeah, yeah, but even the dream, some part of me is like, it'll be okay. Like they're gonna be mad, but they're not gonna be. It was just so uh moderated versus like the way my thoughts swing, which is almost always all or nothing. It's like, okay, that's that real, like you're just dead to them, it's just over, like just face facts. Like they never speak to them again, where that's not necessarily, the dream was more real than my real life thinking, I guess.
That I can relate to that because I'm that type of person. Like if I think if I did something wrong to somebody, if I didn't like hash it out right there and then with them, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can never talk to them again. Like they'll never forgive me. They're gonna hate me for life. Like I just gotta cut them off. When like then that makes me like now I look like the bad guy because I didn't go and
Right,
like
right,
try.
right. Like someone told me once, they called it like you could cut this out, but like they call it shy asshole confusion. Like and like I never heard that term before.
Me
And
neither.
my, it was my brother's wife. She goes, "Oh well, you've suffered from shy asshole confusion your whole life, like where you're shy and introverted, so you avoid talking to people." But then they think you're not talking to them because you think they're, because they think of, they're thinking you think you're better than them, or you're judging them, so they think you're an asshole. But really, it's just you're shy. Like it's like you kind of create this self fulfilling prophecy where people are projecting their own fears onto you, but and you're avoiding them because you're afraid of them. And I was like, oh wow, yeah. I go, I have been a victim of that quite a few times.
I like that. Yeah, I've never heard of that term before, but I feel like that definitely that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. Um I have recurring dreams like too, and I'm always back in high school in my dreams. Like the same exact like high school that I went to school in, like, and I can never find my class.
Yeah.
I like never get there on time. Um and it's like the same like group of people that I think I wasn't even close to in high school, but I was close to in like middle school. It's like that group who like I don't even talk to anymore, or I can't like my locker. I'm like I never know the combination to my locker, and I'm like I like how am I going to get my books? Like I don't. And meanwhile, like in my dream too, I'm like I don't even know what class I'm going to right now. Um, like the one time in one of these, I had a shop class, and I showed up there, and it was like sixth or seventh period, like it was like late in the day, and my teacher's like, "Oh, hey, like how's your project going?" And I was like in my dream, I'm like, I have no clue what I'm doing here, and I had like everyone else was working on like wood projects, and I had clay in front of me, and I was like, I don't even think I'm in the right class. I'm just like bullshitting, like just making something up, just trying to be like, I look at this, I know what I'm doing, but it's a surprise. Like you'll see when it's done. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there, I'm like, is this even my class? Am I supposed to be here? I'm always dreaming about high school. It's like I want to say like every other night I have a dream where I'm back in high school trying to do something, and I'm like I fail every time in my dreams. Like they're not good ones.
Yeah, that's like so interesting because it's like I have dyslexia, so I have that same like the locker dream and the schedule dream a lot, because even back then I was not super organized, but also because of my dyslexia, like I would need to hide my locker combination somewhere, because a lot of times my brain, even after like 6 months or a semester in high school, I'd like be like, what is my locker combination? And I would have
Mhm.
to like look it back up. But then I was never organized. And the same with my class schedule. It'd be like, what class do I have? And so I always have those dreams. And then as an adult, like not that long ago, I enrolled in some community college classes, and I actually made the dream come true in real life. And I wasn't sure if it was a dream or real. Like, so I enrolled in like these two night classes, and one of them was like one of these like 3 hour classes. So it was like supposed to be like from 6 to 9 or 5 to 8. And of course, I like didn't print it out. I just looked it up online, signed up for the class. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. It's six, it goes from 6 to 9. So I show up, and then I can't find the class because I didn't write down, or I like couldn't, didn't know exactly what the classroom number. So I'm trying to find it on my phone, and then I find the classroom. I think I went into like one or two classes wrong, and then I go into this class, and like the teachers are already talking and everybody's sitting there and they all look at me and then I'm like, hey, sorry, sorry, sorry. But I thought it was like 5 minutes before 6 or something. So I'm like, oh, that's weird. And they sit down and I sit down for like 5 or 10 minutes. And then she's like, okay, we'll take our break now. And then I was like, huh. And then I think maybe I knew one or two people. I was like, hey, how you doing? And then I will go out to the break and I look at my phone. It's like, oh, class started at 4:30. Uh, and I was like so embarrassed. And then I like sent the teacher an email. And then it was also like, I can't believe I registered for a class at 4:30 because I had work. So I'm like, I can't even get to this class. So not only to like disrupt the class, and then on top of it, like I procrastinated, so I didn't withdraw. I think I emailed the teacher and was like, "Hey, really sorry about the disruption, and I'm not going to be able to keep going with the class because I can't get out of work that early." I thought for some reason I thought the class started at 6, and she was like, "Fine, that's fine, that's fine." But then I didn't withdraw from the class in time, so then you have to withdraw, before you get like you get an F or whatever. And
Mhm.
then I was like, "This is like a dream," but I actually made it. Like, this is like a nightmare. I mean, it was like classes I was taking, like more for enrichment as an adult. But like, I was like, I can't believe I did that. Like, I made my dreams come true in the worst possible way.
I did something like this in college one time. It was like I first like when I went to college, I didn't even know if I wanted to go, but I had no clue what I wanted to do. But it's like you're 18, all your friends are going, and everyone just tells you like you go to college, like that's just what you're supposed to do.
Right.
So I'm in the first week. I go to my one class, and it was like a public speaking class, and we she assigns us homework. Okay, no problem. So I like go home and I got like my math and my public speaking class like all confused. So I did like the wrong homework out of the wrong book and turned it in. And I was like, I can never show my face to this class ever again. Like, what am I going to do? I like called my mom crying. I go, Mom, I did the wrong, I don't remember which way it went. I just know that I did the wrong classwork out of the wrong book and turned it into that teacher.
Oh
And
my
I was like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen to me, which is maybe that's why I still have all these crazy school dreams.
You still try to process it out, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like, when did your school have like certain like days of the week where you had like gym class, or that like your next time like your period 3 would switch, like the next day would be a different class than gym?
Right, right, yeah, for sure.
Like, I've had dreams that like I didn't know it was like I had gym and I was like I can't find my gym clothes, or we had swimming and I kept like in my dream I'm like why have we not swam yet in swimming class, or I can't find the swimming pool, like why can't we all just cycle those out, why can't we all just leave high school behind?
Right, and it's so weird that it's like, I mean, I guess it's like these formative moments, but it's like, yeah, why? Well, like, and now in 2020, it's also like it shows like the strangeness, like that even reality is like a dream of the passage of time, because it's like, oh, those 4 years of high school are such a like seem like this extended slow motion time, and then all these adults are like, oh, that time flies by, and you're like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't. And then now, when you get older, you're like, holy cow, it really does. And then
Yeah,
we're living in this year where it's like time's like sped up and slowed down at the same time too. It's like the nature of time is so bizarre to begin with, and then you get a dream on top of it. It's like, wow.
I've said that like all year. I'm like, this is the fastest, slowest year that I've ever have dealt with. Like, I feel like it's still, and like, I feel like time hasn't really moved. I'm like, wait, the same thing's not happening in March as it is now? Like, what's going on? Like, I can't believe that, like, Christmas already happened. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, yeah, it's like because it can yeah, it's like all these self-soothing techniques are trying. Oh, don't worry, the year like we'll get through this, or the year's going to go by really fast, and then it didn't feel like it was felt so slow, and now it's like, wait a second, 2020 is over. What? What? can't be possible.
Right? And then everyone's like, it's okay, 2021's coming. I'm like, but like at the drop of the ball, like, is life going to be normal again? Like, I don't think that's how. I feel like we all want that, but I feel like we still got some more steps
Right.
to take.
Yeah, yeah, that's like it's like a kind of like vacation planning, like as like a soothing technique like went out the window the whole year because it was like I didn't realize how much. And again, this goes back to probably my dream about Japan of like how much I'd plan a trip or even a weekend or something off in the future so that I could fixate on it during the day just to get through the day. Be like, well, don't worry, 4 months from now, you're going to be like whatever swimming or something, and then this year it's kind of been taken away like because you can't, even if like you can't really base any planning. And now yeah, like 2021 it's like, oh yeah, everybody's like we're all going to get vaccinated, and then it's like, okay, well, should I start planning trips? But then it's like, am I just setting myself up for a gigantic disappointment? It's like no one knows, like, oh yeah, we're going to be vaccinated by then. Oh no, it's oh May, no July, no August, no September. It's like,
Right?
ah.
So my family was talking about a beach trip, and I was like, I'm not committing to anything. I was like, I'm just gonna just roll with the punches and just go day by day. I was like, I'm not going to jinx anything. I was like, I just can't. I can't commit to things right now.
Yeah, I've started. I finally last week started like doing, because if you, the great thing about making, and this is something my parents never taught me, but like the great thing about making a hotel reservation is they're so easy to cancel versus like flights or any other things. So
Hmm.
it's like, I'll just like start. I just start booking a hotel. Like I'm like, oh, okay, let's book a hotel for Thanksgiving 2021 somewhere. Like that's like it's like, okay, that should be safe. And then it's like, well, you can always cancel it. And so that's what I'm like. Oh, let's start planning out further out and then work our way back. It at least it gets me through the day.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Because you do have to get something to look forward to, or you're gonna make yourself go crazy. Like you have to have some fun in your life, and but
But can't we just like sit on the bus and look out the window and enjoy the rain of being in Japan? Can't you
right.
do that, please?
And not be tired. Just have your coffee with you so you can actually enjoy it all.
Right, just live in the moment, uh, and don't be afraid. Yeah, so doing this podcast, like, have you learned any, like, what are the like top life lessons you can pass on to me that you've learned through discussing dreams?
So one thing I was going to bring up is about like the high school dreams. I thought like because my co-host also like she has them too like all the time about high school. Someone tagged me on Twitter about like someone tweeted was like, "Are we all having dreams about high school or is it just me?" And it took me down like a whirlwind of tweets. I was like an hour. I was just like looking, and it is so common that like people have these dreams like about being stuck in high school or being stuck in your past. Um, the other like big thing I would say, my brother brought this up to me like when he found out I started this podcast. He was like, "No one wants to hear about your dreams, like especially my dreams. My dreams are absolutely crazy." And that's one of the reasons we wanted to start this to let people know that you're not alone having these like terrible like nightmares and stuff. It doesn't define who you are in real life because I've had some terrible nightmares where I'm like, how did my brain come up
Right.
like with this? Like this is not who I am. And it's hard to like hold those in. Like you need to like to tell people to get it off of your chest so you don't cause like more problems, like mental problems for yourself. I think it's good to get it out there in the open. And that like we're not experts here. We just like to I just really enjoy talking about my dreams and hearing other people's dreams and just seeing what they dream about, what they go through.
Yeah, I mean, it's like so normalizing too to hear other people's dreams, like you said, because it's like, oh wait, like everybody has like insane dreams, or dreams that don't make any sense, or dreams that are like, oh god, where did that come from? Like, because
Mm-hmm.
I never even thought about that. Like, I had a dream the other night that my daughter's mom has a dog, and it's a super cute dog. Her name's Sweetie, and she's this little tiny dog, and she's the cutest dog in the world. But she doesn't. She's like one of those dogs that just runs away. Like she can't ever get loose. And
Mm-hmm.
in the dream, we like let her loose, and then we managed to corner her, and she was like cornered in this what is that called, like a one of those fences, what are the, one of those fences that is everywhere, chain link fence, and she's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
cornered there, and we're like, sweetie, stay there, stay there, don't run. And she's sitting there and she's looking at us, but she's still thinking about running. And I'm like, sweetie, come here, come here. And then, like, right as I get close to her, she like turns her head and her ear hooks on like a loose link from the fence. And like I see it like hook her ear, and I'm like, sweetie, don't move, don't move. And then she starts tugging her ear, and she's like kind of crying because her ear's like hooked on something. I'm like, no, no, no. And when dogs, sometimes when they do something, they make it worse.
Yeah, yeah.
Starts pulling really hard and like tearing at her ear. I'm like, no. And I like dive at her, and her ear, and it wasn't actually graphic, which is weird for the dream. Her ear just pops right off. Like, and then I'm like screaming hysterically in the dream, but she's just like looking at me, but her ear's gone. And I'm like, no, oh my God. And I'm thinking in my head, what am I going to do? How am I going to start? But she doesn't even care. Like her ear totally popped off. Like it was like, she's like a dog potato head or something. And I wake up in this like panic, and I'm like, "Oh my God, the dog's here!" And I'm like, but the dog did not care one bit.
Dog is like, I'm fine. I don't know what your problem is. It's fine. Just pop it back on.
It was, where did they even come from? It's like,
That's what, like, I feel like where do these like dreams come from? Um, like I just feel like a lot of them are like brain dump dreams, like stuff that your brain just is like, we got to process some of this stuff out. Like, here you go. Like, we're gonna do this. Like last night, I had a dream. I woke up. I dreamt this dream like this morning because my daughter woke up at 5:30 in the morning. It was like ready to go, like ready to party, and I was like, why? Can we go like at least 6:30? I don't know. 5:30 is just a lot. So I got up with her, let my husband sleep, and then at 8 o'clock, I came up and gave her, I was like, all right, we're switching. Like, I'm taking a nap now. So, like, I had this dream, like, when I went back to, like, sleep this morning. And it was, I missed this doctor's appointment. And I, like, woke up in my dream and I was like, looking at my husband, like, what time is my doctor's appointment? And he was like, it was at 9:50. And it was already 10 o'clock in my dream. And I'm like blaming my husband that I missed my appointment. Like, it's his fault. And I'm just like crying. And I was like, I won't be able to get in there for another 4 months. And he was like, it's fine. Like, you'll be fine. Like, we'll fix it. And I was like, okay. So then, like, my dream just switches, and I'm like swimming in a swimming pool, and we're making this like big whirlpool. Like, we're just like, there's like four of us, and we're just like really intense, like going around making this whirlpool. And like the pool was at my grandma's house at this point. Like, my dream was just like jumping like everywhere. And I feel like I had this dream, like I just think it was not one of those like anxiety ridden dreams. Uh like because once Thanksgiving hits to like mid-January, it's like I have a loss of like what day it is, what time it is. Like holidays just like this time of year just throws me off so bad. Like I feel like once February hits, it's like, okay, we have Sunday through Saturday again. Like I'll figure out the days of the week.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like getting thrown off your routine for the whole holiday season. It's like, okay, well, at this point, I just give up, and then yeah, January, whatever the Monday is after New Year's, I'll try to recover some
Right?
sense of adulthood.
Yeah, like I'll try to, and it's like I feel like I'm still one of those people, like I don't put everything in my phone calendar. I like to have my paper calendar on the fridge, and I write everything down on there. And I don't have one for like next year yet. So I'm like, it just ends. Like this is the last week. Nothing else happens now.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, okay, forget that. One day it'll be real, but not right now.
Yes, yes. So I feel like that's what all my dreams are recently, are just like, you need to get on track. You need to get your life together again. Like, life doesn't stop. You're an adult now, not a child. And like you don't have this winter break.
Yeah, that's the hardest thing. It's like, oh well, like I remember when my daughter was younger, trying to explain to her how vacation worked with a job, and it was like, well, like it's almost like I have to pay to take time off. Like that's the only way I can kind of explain it to you. You only get 2 weeks off, and in some sense, you're paying the whole year. You pay in to get to take those 2 weeks off. Like, because my last job is like the where you're accumulating a certain number of like 0.08 hours or whatever,
Yes.
and it's like she's like, what? No, don't you just get those weeks? I'm like, no, 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 no. Like, you got
Yeah,
to
it doesn't
earn
always
it.
work like that. Yep.
It's like,
Yeah,
what?
that's a hard concept for kids to like understand, and even like because my daughter's only 2, and that my sisters, like my niece and nephew, are like 4 and 5, and like we were trying to plan a vacation this past year that didn't happen, but she was like, I was like, well, let's go in like August, September when like it's after like the crazy like big like when everybody goes in the summer. And she's like, Janie, we can't do that because my kids, like her oldest goes to school. And I was like, oh man. See, I was like, I can't even process that yet. I was like, sorry. I was like, I'm not in that realm yet of life.
Right, but that's a good place to be because it's like you save so much. You could save so much when you don't have to deal with like the school breaks when everything gets busier and jacked up.
Yes. Yeah. I'm definitely like to travel in the off seasons. I'll be, that'll be something I'll have to learn once my daughter's old enough and goes to school and everything. I'll be like, oh man, got to save another like $1,000 to do all these activities in prime like travel season.
Right, right, yeah, yeah. It's like we could be doing so much traveling in 2020 if it wasn't for 2020.
Right? Dude, so all the things, so many things we could have been
Right.
doing. We're campers, so which was like it's a good activity for 2020. But we're like we go to like state parks and stuff, and we were so used to just like going and just go making our reservation like the week before or something. But everybody turned into campers. So we were like, oh man, we can't just pick our sites freely. Like we had to like schedule things in advance. I'm like, this isn't normal.
Yeah. Yeah, we did a lot of like we don't have a backyard, but we have a deck, and it was like we did a lot of deck camping. Like, and
Hmm.
it's like okay, we'll just camp tonight outside. We'll sleep out, basically sleep outside, and it's like change of pace to get through 2020. It worked.
Right? Yeah. Well, that sounds fun though. You gotta just switch it up and then have some fun.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. It's like yeah, it's like gives you some variety.
Yes. Yes. Um, well, I appreciate you so much coming on to our show.
Thank you so much. I love talking about dreams. Like, but it's like I'm so glad because it's like, oh yeah, I kind of stopped paying attention in 2020,
Hmm.
and I wonder too if you're paying attention to dreams, like you're more likely to remember them, because it's like, and I know there's a few people out there that are like, oh, I never dream, and I'm like, I'm
Hmm.
the opposite. It's like if I could dream every night, I wish and remember it. I wish I would.
Hmm. I feel like there is a I feel like that could go either way because I know when I was talking to Jess when we first started this, she was like, I think I'm stressing myself out to remember my dreams where I'm not dreaming at all. And I was like, well, you better get on it because we got this going on now.
Dream performance anxiety. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. She's like, I can't remember anything. She's like, I'm not dreaming. I was
Okay.
like, well, just relax. I was like, have some tea before bed, do some yoga, go to sleep. Don't think about the podcast.
Check out a sleep podcast. That's always an option.
There you go. Yes. If anybody has trouble sleeping, be sure to check out Sleep With Me podcast with Dear Scooter for some bedtime stories. Definitely you'll like it. Sometimes I'll even listen, like I'll like one and I'll fall asleep and I'm like, I got to listen to this during the day because I got like really into it.
Yeah, that's like the one thing about my shows is it's definitely an acquired taste. But if you're into talking, like it's like your listeners probably would like it because it's like a much different. It's not a very normal podcast. Well, it's a little bit dreamlike. It's like weird, like dreams. I guess I would say.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good way to put it. My favorite one is about trapper keepers. I
Oh
think
yeah,
I've listened to that one so many times. I don't know why, but it's just my favorite one to fall asleep to now.
yeah. Those are one of my favorites because it was like, oh, I get to do research on trapper keepers, and then I did this deep dive, and I'm like, man. And then, of course, part of me was like, wow, that one's pretty cool. I wonder if that's on eBay. And then I started like, I actually didn't buy any because of the prices, but I was like, wow, and then I'm like, dude, what are you gonna do with a trapper keeper? Like,
What
really? Like,
what am I going to do with this now? That would be something I'd be like, yep, I'm going to buy. I need this in my life. And then it just will sit on like my filing cabinet and be like, don't know why I needed that, but can't
yeah, I
get
was
rid
like,
of it
oh,
either now.
I could get organized. Like I remember one time I almost failed out of high school, or actually I was like failing at middle school or grammar school, and my dad was like, and my dad, he wasn't always super engaged when I was like in school stuff, except if I was doing bad, and he was
Hmm.
like, and usually my parents were like, we had 6 kids, so they were in a hurry to buy trapper keepers because even then they were expensive. But he's like, he took me to the store and he was like, if I buy you a trapper keeper, will you get better grades? I'm like, oh yeah, totally. I'm gonna totally get better grades. And then I managed to get a trapper keeper out of it. I don't think it impacted my grades, but it was
That's
very similar to what we're talking about. If you just get organized.
Yes. Like the beginning of every school year, I was like, look, I'm going to be so organized this year. I'm going to study. I'm going to do this. And like 1 month in, I'm like back to all my old
Yeah,
habits of like, where is everything? Like, did I do the homework? Did I do it in the right book?
right, right. Do we know where class and lockers are?
Oh, never. I'll never know. At least anymore in my life. Never find that locker. Well, thank you again for coming on the show today with us. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Now I'm gonna be more tuned into my dreams.
There you go. Good. Thanks for listening today, guys, as well. Be sure to check out the Sleep With Me podcast. And then you could follow us on Instagram and Twitter at WTF Did I Dream Last Night? And be sure to send your dreams to us for our Dream Mail episodes. You can send them to WTF Did I Dream Last Night at gmail.com. And as always, happy dreaming.